The Chaos Spawn kit, it's quite old now, almost as old as me. It's not one that I'm 100% convinced about, but it's certainly something that I want to have in my army. And in this video, we're going to carry on with our Slaves to Darkness army build, and that's exactly what I'm going to paint, the Chaos Spawn. Let's get into it after this. And welcome back. If you're new here, hello, I'm Wayne. If you're returning, thank you. I appreciate you choosing to spend some time with me. As I've said in the intro, we're going to look at Chaos Spawn in this video. I want to have a little bit of fun with this project. It's been quite methodical up until this point, but with a very good reason. We're getting this army ready to do battle as fast as possible. But this is one of those areas where this range doesn't really fit into the wider army's narrative. The things that we're going to use to tie it together is that basing theme that we've established already. We know exactly what colours we kind of want to use, and it's bringing those together into this very organic form that these Chaos Spawn take. There's only two of these, so it's dead straightforward to just throw some colours at them and see what we come out with. And that's exactly what I want to do. There's a nice break between the chaff units and getting onto the more elite stuff next time. This is going to be a really good palette cleanser for us to just have a little bit of fun. Do leave me a comment, like and subscribe, and all of that YouTube things. It does help the channel grow. And well, yeah, I do kind of enjoy making these videos, and hopefully I'll carry on doing so. Thank you for the positive feedback if you have left it so far. I do appreciate it. And yeah, without further ado, come on, let's jump on in and have a look at what we've done with the Chaos Spawn. Since we've only got two of them, I thought we'd mix it up a little bit and just go off-piste and have a bit of fun. I've base coated it normally as I would in black, and then I've given it a very light zenithal highlight with white ink, and I've focused somewhat on the chest and the head. The reason being those are the two focal points that we want to pick out. Bearing in mind we are going to have this lit from underneath from the base. Right away then, I'm coming in with that warm grey colour that we've used a couple of times before. The reason being, because of the lack of armour on the Chaos Spawn, what we want to do is create some areas of interest. Now, even though this is going to be underlit, we want to have some highlights on the top of the model, just so that it has some presence on the tabletop. This is very much one of those rule of cool, rather than it's going to be exactly obeying the laws of physics, because, well, it's a game at the end of the day, and you need to be able to pick them out from a distance. So what we're doing is establishing some volumes on the muscle groups, really, just picking out elements that we're going to want to bring emphasis to later. Right, we're going to use some contrast paints now. I'm not going to use these in the usual manner. I'm going to use them as glazes, and obviously I'm doing this through the airbrush, but you could do it with just thin down contrast paint and a brush, and I'm going to slowly build up coverage over the miniature. That highlight that we created in the first step is going to give us a nice bright point to focus on. And what we want to do is create a really good canvas to work on in the next steps. Now, it's going to look quite samey at this point, but don't worry about that. This Sigval Burgundy is really going to start to pick things out. Now, this is a very saturated color. And again, we're running it through the airbrush. Now, I don't want to go too far with this, but what this is going to do is over that flesh color is going to start give us a variation in tone, give us elements of saw flesh, things ripping apart, stretching. It's going to start to look really, really nasty. And that's exactly what we want for the Chaos Spawn. We're going to use just this one color at this point. Like I said before, we're keeping it simple here. And the next few steps are going to work on top of this, giving us much more variation in terms of what colors we're going to use there. So laying down this foundation is saving time later on. Even though we're having fun with this, what you want to do is just think about where the model would look naturally saw. So where the spikes are jutting out and protruding, it'll be naturally a little bit redder there, the blood will be at the surface maybe, or the skin's distending into all these weird chaotic growths that are coming out of it. Take your time, work around the model, and try not to oversaturate things. I've built up some emphasis around the face to draw the eye in. That's exactly what we want to do. But anywhere where there's some type of mutation happening around the hands, knees, anywhere where the skin might be a little bit thinner, You're probably thinking at this point that we've gone a little bit too far and we've gone too far into the red color rather than the flesh. Honestly, don't worry about that. We're going to add much more variation as we go down the line. And remember, what we want to do is draw emphasis to the important parts, which is the face. Right, Molotov black, any black will do, it doesn't matter. And again, through the airbrush, I'm just going to be very, very careful and pick out any of the claws, spikes, and other details. Take your time with this, or paint it in with a brush if you want to. I don't mind using the airbrush and getting a little bit more overspray on this because it gives you a little bit more variation in the tone. Obviously, I don't want to get too much on the skin, so using something to mask off areas is sensible. A little bit of paper or some putty will see you right here if you are using an airbrush. Obviously, if you're using a brush, you don't need to worry about this. I just want to get the edges and the ends of the spines here because the next step I'm going to blend those into the skin tone as if they're pushing out from under the skin rather than sitting on top of it. Skeleton Horde is what I'm going to use here now, but anything that's a light brown or ochre will do the trick here. Blending from the black back into the skin tone and then pulling back on the airbrush is going to give that cone of coverage that the airbrush naturally has a little bit more emphasis and just blends it in with the skin. Now onto the face. I'm going to use the grey that we used right at the start of this process and use a little bit of dry brushing just around the face to help me pick out the details that I want to establish as a little bit brighter. Then coming in with a fine point brush, I'm going to pick out some of these weird jowly things and the individual teeth. This is helping draw the eye in a little bit. You could use white if you wanted. Now, I wanted to get this blue ink somewhere on the model. We've already used it on all of his previous models, and tying it together just gives us a little bit more coherency in the garment overall. So these weird flesh things coming out of its mouth, I don't know what they are. They certainly look interesting. We're going to have those blue. And we're going to use the blue in a few other places as well. Now, earlier on, I mentioned how that red, that Sigval Burgundy, was going to be the foundation for another few steps later on. Well, obviously, we've put the skeleton ord over the top of that to help blend it in. And now, if we put some of the blue over the top of the Sigval Burgundy, we naturally get the purple. Now, you could have come in with the purple through the airbrush to do this, but what's the point in having an extra step? What this does is just gives us more variation in tone, and that soreness, it's more interesting to look at. There's more visual appeal here, and by having the ink glaze over the top of what we've already established with the Sigval Burgundy, we're basically cheating. I mean, this is super easy. I'm just brushing it on. It's thinned down a little bit. You could use a contrast paint if you want here, but inks just give you that higher saturation. We're almost done with it at this point. The final thing that I want to pick out is just give a little bit more emphasis to the face. So coming in with a red or crimson ink or wash, I'm going to start picking out just elements where, again, I think it will be a little bit more interesting. So paying particular emphasis to the face, any darker crevices in there that you want to really show as being sore. So if there's any spots or warts around there, parts of these tendrils that are coming out of it, glazing on a little bit of crimson over the top of what we've already done with the Sigval Burgundy and into the flesh tone will just give you another layer of interest on there. Certainly if you've got any horns jutting out like we have around the face, just adding a little bit between the skin tone and where the horns start to protrude give you that really nice effect of it being a area of eye blood flow and a little bit redder. It's just a colour that we've not used anywhere else specifically on the model, so it does help focus us in on the face and other points of interest. Face should be the focal point though, so that's where you want to spend the majority of your time. And with that, we're pretty much done. Let's have a look and see what we think. And there we go. Did you have some fun with that? I think I did. You might have noticed there were a couple of the spawn there that I showed. One of them I definitely had some fun with customizing slightly. I wanted to go a little bit off piste, but yeah, you either like that sort of humor or you don't. For me, it was a little bit of a giggle, just something to throw in as an Easter egg on the tabletop and see how it goes. I'm not a massive fan of this kit overall, as you might have imagined. There were a lot of mold lines on there. A lot of them I actually didn't even see until I started painting, but I just couldn't bring myself to go back and remove them all at that point. This is not a unit I'm massively invested in. It's just one that I wanted as part of my army. Have you painted this kit? If you have, let me know down in the comments. Did you find the plastic very weird compared to other Citadel kits? For me, it felt weird. It was very malleable, way softer than some of the other kits that I've used recently. Certainly nowhere near as good a quality as plastic as that Soul Blight box I did a few weeks back. But my days, this was a weird sensation. Just even handling it was odd. Let me know your thoughts down there. Let's have a conversation and see how it goes. I think this is all of the basic units that we want to do out of the way so we can move on to the elite stuff next. And it's updating that armor recipe that we've already worked on. But that's for the next video, and I'll see you there. Have a good one. See you next time.